What's up, everybody? This is the Act Man here, and today I'm going to be giving you my final thoughts on Halo 5's campaign. Now, in the 5-part review series that I did, I talked about a lot of things, but there were some things that I didn't talk about, or take time to mention, or go in depth about, and that's what I'm going to use this video for. It's just going to be a more casual style video talking about just my final thoughts, the last things I really want to say on it. So consider this the lazy but still thought-provoking part 6. So the first thing I want to talk about is the gameplay, right? I had so many comments of people saying, why didn't you talk about the gameplay? Why haven't you talked about the gameplay? Gameplay. I think all the story elements are more important, at least in the case of Halo 5, because it's like, it's one thing for a game to have good gameplay, but a bad story. But it's another thing if there's a game that has a painful story and decent gameplay. So, in the case of Halo 5, the reason why I didn't talk about the gameplay in those videos is just because it's like, the story is so painful that it almost doesn't matter how fun the game is. At least in my opinion. Cringe-inducing is the word that I would use to describe the story of Halo 5. But there's a couple other reasons why I didn't talk about it. One thing is that on Legendary, the campaign is just aggravating. It's just frustrating to play. You're always tied down with 3 other Spartans that are connected to your life somehow. It really puts your life in the hands of your shitty AI teammates that can't revive you. The campaign had a very frustrating element. Like, it's a neat concept, but it was just so frustrating because you're constantly being followed by characters you don't care about. They're just constantly talking. I honestly wish I could play through the campaign without any dialogue whatsoever. That would be a much more enjoyable experience. Then I could actually enjoy the gameplay, but it's like, I'm not going to play the game on mute. You know, that's even worse. So yeah, in addition to the frustrating squad-based mechanic, just the feeling of the kills was so off in Halo 5. Like, it's something very subtle, but compared to the other games, it really stands out to me, and it really takes me out of the experience when I kill an enemy, and it doesn't feel anywhere near as satisfying as it did in the other games, except maybe Halo 4. One thing is the hit markers. Now, I get that hit markers are informative to the player when you hit something, I get that, but I don't want to see that in the campaign. It's a little quirk of mine. And it's another thing with the little death X mark that pops up when you kill something. I don't want to see that in the campaign either. You know, I just want to be focusing on the bullets and shooting the aliens. I just want to focus on that. There's something about those two things, the hit marker and the kill marker, that just make it a lot less satisfying to get kills. And then when you tie that to the fact that there's like no blood, it's almost like you're just shooting pellets. You know, and that really takes me out. You know, because when you're in Halo 1 and you're just blasting grunts with an AR and there's blood flying all over the place, it was great. It was great. It was so satisfying. Seeing that blood, you might think I'm a masochist or something, but, you know, the blood made it satisfying because you got to see, like, these alien guts colored all over the place. You didn't have hit markers or kill markers just clogging up the view. The gameplay in Halo 5 just has a lot of frustrating elements. 2 of them were problems back in Halo 4 as well. And those are the way the game discourages you from exploring and the sheer lack of ammo. You know, in missions like Truth and Reconciliation or Nightfall, Winter Contingency, these missions increase the maximum ammo you can carry for your sniper, your assault rifle, and the game designers knew that you were going to have to shoot a lot of enemies and go through a long level, so they increased the maximum ammo. But in Halo 4 and 5, they don't do that at all. So some missions, you'll start at the very beginning, and with 1 or 2 encounters, you've already got to swap your weapons. Because there's just so many enemies and the game does not increase the maximum ammo count from multiplayer to campaign. It's a really frustrating thing, because half the time you pick up a gun and use all the ammo within about 1 minute. Now, one of the biggest things that just annoyed me was just how many invisible barriers there are in Halo 5 throughout all the levels. The first time I played the campaign, I was so hyped. I was running around trying to explore, clamber, jump, thruster pack into any places I could to try and find skulls or audio logs, and so many times I would just run into invisible barriers that just stopped me dead in my tracks from exploring the levels and seeing the beauty. And that's a really annoying thing. It's not like in Halo 1, 2, or 3 where you don't have some stupid return to battlefield thing or countless invisible barriers blocking your exploration. You can go wherever the hell you want in those games, for the most part. So yeah, the ammo count and invisible barriers throughout the campaign just made it a lot more frustrating and annoying. What also really bugged me about the gameplay is how all the enemies just felt so weird. They just felt so different. Like, hunters have tracking bullets. Like, they're super fast. They can melee you super fast. You can't really outmaneuver them up close anymore. And that's really stupid, man, because the hunters are supposed to have a weakness, right? But because they have homing bullets, and because their fuel rod cannons also home in, and because they have lightning fast reaction speed, really the only strategy on Legendary is to just hide behind a corner, pop out, blast them with bullets, and then hide back in. It's that mini boss fight against the two hunters in the second level, it's so Call of Duty that it sucks. And just the voice acting for all the enemies, it just... Just the whole thing. You know, the enemies felt so weird, the gameplay felt weird, the hit markers and everything, it just felt so weird. And in my eyes, it's like, why would I play Halo 5's campaign when there are other campaigns that do everything better? You know, the story, gameplay, everything. I feel like all the other campaigns did it way better. Debatably, Halo 4 might be worse, but I think Halo 4's campaign is better than Halo 5's. You know, there really are just a lot of issues I have with the gameplay, and the AI is a really big issue for me, because all the enemies have homing weapons, they have pinpoint accuracy, and what's interesting is they actually had to update the enemies in the campaign post-launch, because people were getting sniped by storm rifle elites, for God's sake. I just didn't really enjoy the way the enemies acted, how almost all of them have homing weapons, and how when fighting Prometheans, the ground was just cluttered with enemies, you know? The AI, the gameplay, and the feeling of killing enemies just wasn't satisfying or fun to me. It just makes the gameplay really not fun or enjoyable. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is the level design, which is actually pretty good. Like, across the board, for most of the levels except for the 14th one, the Breaking, which is the most horribly designed Halo level out of all of them. It's bad. That's the one where you fight the 3 wardens, and you go on a very linear path, killing groups of Prometheans over and over and over. So aside from that level, which really pops out in my head as being really bad, the level design was actually pretty good. It felt like you had a lot of freedom, especially on Sang Helios. Most of the missions with very open levels were actually really fun landscapes to play in. There's a very nice feeling of freedom and many ways to approach the scenarios. So even though the gameplay isn't my favorite, the level design is pretty dang good and works well with all the new Spartan abilities. So a big thing I didn't talk about in my videos, which I probably should have, was the ending. Good lord. You might be thinking they were trying to go for like a Halo 2-esque ending where it's like, oh, I gotta finish the fight. But no, it's took you long enough.
It took you long enough?
Like when I heard that and I saw the credits rolling, I was just like, is that it? The first time I beat Halo 5's campaign and I saw that ending, I was like, I'm missing something. I am missing something very, very big. Took you long enough? What are you trying to aggravate me, Halsey? Like, that line just aggravates me. It's almost like she has no appreciation for anything I did. And the legendary ending, which hints at the rings being used, it's like Halo 4 and 5 aren't even about the Halo rings. Like, not really at all. I guess they forgot about that and needed to remind us that, oh yeah, this is about the Halo rings, or at least it's supposed to be. So the ending was just a total cop-out, lazy as hell. The legendary ending made me even more aggravated, and it was just like, wow. Like, that is one of the worst endings you could possibly have. Arbiter and Chief don't even talk. They don't even fucking nod at each other and say, what's up? I remember everything we did in Halo 3 and how cool we were. Like, nothing. No satisfying ending whatsoever. It basically ended that way because they didn't know how to end it. So they just went for a straight up cliffhanger. Well, I guess we'll continue something in Halo 6. But there's really no debate with Halo 5. It's like everything in Halo 5 just really, for the most part, sucked. And then the ending just, like, slapped us all across the face again. It's like, what you showed us wasn't satisfying, awesome, or fun. And then you put the cliffhanger ending in there. As if we're going to be hyped for the next installment of the story. Now I want to talk about what I think is the weirdest and most bizarre part of Halo 5's campaign. And I kind of talked about it a little bit. There are multiple occasions where characters are talking face to face. And like one character will just completely ignore the other character. Like that scene with Locke and Buck. And Locke's just staring off into space. Like, he doesn't even react. Like, how unnatural is that? If someone walks up to you, says something to you, and you just... Then there was another case of that, where Blue Team is on Genesis, I think, and Fred's like, why did Cortana bring us here? And Chief just completely ignores the question. He just completely ignores it.
What's Cortana up to, Chief? Why'd she bring us here?
Let's keep moving.
Denied.
Then there's also that part where Blue Team asks Chief, like, what's it like having Cortana in your head or living with an AI? And then one of the characters is like, care to elaborate? No. It was like these obvious flaws of writing where it's like, would you like to elaborate? Yeah, give us some character development. No. And then there's a scene near the end where all the Warden Eternals pop up, and Chief's like, focus fire. And then they all just start shooting different Wardens. It's like...
And her people.
Focus fire.
You will not betray her!
Why are there so many instances of characters just blatantly ignoring what other characters are saying? That was like the weirdest, most bizarre part. It just blows my mind thinking about it. But I also think it's hilarious. So the last thing I want to talk about is, where does Halo 5's campaign leave us? Well, I talked about it in part 1 that this is the story we're stuck with. I also talked about it in my Can Halo 6's Story Be Saved video. But basically, we're kind of stuck with this story. And the worst thing about it is, it's one thing if the first story in a series sucks, because you can easily recover in the second one. But when it's a trilogy, and you've got the middle piece is the worst one, and it's terrible, and it disregards everything in the piece before it, the shittiness of the second installment plagues both the next installment and the previous installment. Whereas if you have the first one that sucks, that'll pretty much only affect the second one, right? But you could really recover in the second one. And then by the time you get to the third one, it's not so bad. You know, Halo 5 leaves the story in a very, very bad spot. And I hope that they can manage to make some magic happen and do something. I really don't know how they're going to recover or how they're going to incorporate all the useless characters and find a purpose for them, how they're going to change their writing style to make it good, to follow, you know, the fundamental basics of fiction writing. Or if they're going to break those fundamental basics, then you better get fucking Stephen King or George R.R. Martin to help you with the script. But that probably won't happen. But anyways, those were my final thoughts on Halo 5's campaign. That's really all I gotta say about it. I felt like I should at least clear up some of this final stuff and really clarify some of the stuff that I didn't talk about. So what do you think about the stuff I said in this video? I probably already know your thoughts on Halo 5's campaign. Whatever your thoughts and opinions are, Post them in the comments down below as always, my friend. Alright everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the Act Man signing out. Peace!